What if I told you the incel problem isn't what you think it is? Everyone blames Andrew Tate. Everyone blames podcasts. Everyone blames toxic masculinity. They're all wrong. Gen Z men aren't being radicalized by some shadowy influence campaign. They're responding to something real, something measurable, something that's been building for years. And the scariest part? We saw it coming. 63% of men under 30 are single. That's the new normal. This isn't about dating apps.
How do you find love? Now for many, that search starts online.
It's not about feminism.
If they don't offer you a seat at the table, you bring a folding chair. I think we're tired of bringing our own folding chairs.
It's not even really about women. It's about what happens when an entire generation of young men grows up feeling invisible. When loneliness becomes an identity. When the internet gives you a vocabulary for your pain. The incelification of Gen Z didn't start on Reddit. It didn't start with Elliot Rodger. It started the moment we stopped asking a simple question. What happens to boys who never feel wanted? Because what I'm about to show you will change how you see everything. Here's what the media wants you to believe. Young men are being radicalized by Andrew Tate, by Jordan Peterson, by misogynistic podcasters with millions of followers. Ban influencers, problem solved. Except it's not solved. It's getting worse. Because they've got the causation backwards. These guys aren't lonely because they watch Tate. They watch Tate because they're lonely. The influencers didn't create the crisis. They're profiting from it.
Georgiana?
Is that your maid?
No, it's a masseuse. Georgiana, can you bring my sunglasses, please? I don't know where they are.
Yo!
Think about it. If you removed every Red Pill podcast tomorrow, would young men suddenly stop being isolated? Would they magically have friends again? Would the loneliness disappear? No. The audience would just find someone else, because the demand is real. We spent decades building a world that's terrible for human connection. Social media replaced real friendships. Dating apps turned relationships into a marketplace. Adult websites became the default. Community institutions collapsed. Boys grew up more isolated than any generation in history. Then we handed them phones at age 10. By the time they hit 18, many of them had never asked someone out in person, never been to a party, never had a real conversation with a girl. The stats back this up. Gen Z has less intimacy than any generation since we started tracking. Fewer relationships, fewer friends, more time alone. And when you're 22 years old, invisible to everyone around you, watching your peers couple up while you eat dinner alone every night, you're gonna look for answers. The manosphere doesn't brainwash these guys. It gives them a framework for pain they already feel. You can't fight an ideology by attacking the influencers. You have to address why the message resonates in the first place. Here's what the data actually shows. 1 in 4 young men report having 0 close friends. 0. Not a few acquaintances, not work buddies, literally no one. That number has tripled since 1990. 30% of men under 30 haven't had intercourse in the past year. Compare that to women, only 19%. The gender gap is widening, fast.
I have not interacted with a female that is not related to me in over 3 years.
And before you say, well, they're just lazy, or they need to try harder, let me just stop you right there. Because that's exactly what everyone said 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The numbers kept climbing anyway. Young men today spend more time alone than any generation in recorded history. More time in their rooms, more time online, more time in their own heads. The pandemic made it worse, but it didn't create the problem. It just accelerated what was already happening. When researchers ask these men how they feel, the word that comes up most often isn't angry, it's not entitled, it's not even frustrated. It's invisible. They feel like ghosts in their own lives. Like they could disappear tomorrow and nobody would notice. Like they're watching everyone else live through a screen. And when you feel invisible enough, you start looking for explanations. You start looking for reasons. You start looking for someone to blame. That's when the internet steps in. Nobody wakes up and decides to become an incel. It doesn't work like that. It starts with a joke, a meme, something that makes you laugh because it hits too close to home. Nobody texts me first. Girls only want tall guys. I'm too ugly for dating apps. Relatable, right? Harmless even. But here's the thing about memes. They're not just jokes. They're tiny packets of ideology disguised as humor. You laugh at one, the algorithm shows you 10 more, then 100. Then your entire feed is just variations of the same message. You're losing, other guys are winning. The game is rigged. TikTok calls it getting blackpilled. It's when you stop seeing these memes as jokes and start seeing them as truth. The transition is seamless, invisible almost. One day you're watching gym content and self-improvement videos. The next day the algorithm is feeding you Looksmaxxing tutorials and hypergamy explainers. You don't even realize you've crossed a line. Because the internet doesn't radicalize you with manifestos anymore. It does it with relatability, with community, with the feeling that someone finally gets it. Reddit boards, Discord servers, Telegram groups. These spaces don't feel dangerous when you first join. They feel like support groups, like the only place where people understand what you're going through. Then the vocabulary changes. Dating is hard becomes women are hypergamous. I'm struggling becomes it's over for sub-5 males. I feel lonely becomes society hates men. The shift happens word by word, meme by meme. And the most insidious part? It all started with something true. Young men are struggling. Loneliness is real. The dating market has changed. But truth mixed with poison is still poison. By the time you realize what's happened, you're already speaking a different language, seeing the world through a different lens, and everyone outside that bubble looks like the enemy. Looksmaxxing sounds innocent enough. It's just self-improvement, right? Hit the gym, fix your skin, get a better haircut, level up your appearance. Millions of Gen Z guys are doing it. The hashtag has billions of views on TikTok. But here's what nobody tells you about Looksmaxxing. It doesn't start as self-improvement. It starts as self-hatred. The whole premise is, you're not good enough as you are. Your face is holding you back. Your jawline is your destiny. Your cantle tilt determines your worth. Yeah, cantle tilt, the angle of your eyes. There are guys measuring this with protractors. At first it seems productive. Work out, eat better, take care of yourself, good stuff. Then it escalates. Mewing, bone smashing, icing your face for hours, stretching your palate with medieval torture devices. Some guys are getting risky surgeries in their early 20s. The message gets darker. No amount of personality can fix that ugly face. Women operate on pure biology. Attractiveness is a science, not an opinion. This is where the slope gets slippery. Because Looksmaxxing spaces don't just teach you how to look better. They teach you that looks are everything. That human connection is transactional. That you're in competition with every other man. And when you've spent months obsessing over your appearance, when you've measured every millimeter of your face, when you've done everything right and still feel invisible, that's when the black pill really sinks in. I tried everything and it didn't work. Maybe they're right. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe it's over. Looksmaxxing promises control in a world that feels random, but it actually does the opposite. It turns your self-worth into a number, your face into a prison. And once you see yourself that way, it's hard to see anyone else as fully human either. Something unprecedented is happening with Gen Z. Women are organizing, finding community, building movements. They have language for their struggles, validation, support systems. Men are isolated, told to figure it out alone, told their problems aren't real problems, that complaining makes them weak. So they go online. And online tells them something different. Online tells them they're the real victims. That feminism went too far. That society has turned against them. Both sides think the other is insane. Both sides think the other is living in a different reality. And they're both kind of right. Because they're living in different realities now. Different apps, different content, different friend groups, different worlds. They're not just politically divided. They're experientially separated. And when you can't even agree on what problems exist, when your basic perceptions of reality don't align, how do you date each other? How do you trust each other? You don't. Loneliness is a crisis, not a character flaw. Right now, the only people talking to these guys are leading them into darkness. The manosphere wins because it's the only place offering answers, even if those answers are poison. We can do better. We have to. Now, if this made you think, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would be very much appreciated. And thanks for watching.